All right, well, here we are, mate. We've finished the test between the BYD Shark and the 2025 Ranger. So let's start with the Ranger, I guess.
Why not?
Why not? Because obviously everyone wants to know more about the Shark than the Ranger, so we'll keep them on the toe. Now, look, the Ranger's obviously pretty tried and tested. We've done a lot of work to it in terms of turning it into a really good touring rig. We use the 2025 Ranger Sport as the base for that, and we've put the GVM suspension upgrade, bull bar and everything like that. That's all been done by Ironman, Trojan canopy on the back, bushwhacker fitted out the top with Osfall drive equipment, and it's really just turned it into an absolute beast of a touring rig. On the way up, you had a bit of a drive. I had a bit of a drive of the BYD. We tested both of them with towing. And what did you think of the Ranger when you drove it?
I think it's a really well balanced car. I mean, with all of the gear on it, what do you reckon it weighs?
Look, if I was to put a figure on it, I would say maybe 3-ish. Yep. Maybe 3.1.
Yeah, with all your gear
with
in
all the gear
and filled up.
Yeah, I mean, so without any gear, without any modifications, they're roughly 2.4 something out of the box.
Yep.
So you take the tub off, put the canopy on, add the winch and bull bar and all of those kinds of things, and then the Tajma tent on the top. You know, you'd be taking off maybe 100 kilos, adding about 700. You know, so
Yep.
that takes it about three ton.
Well, from my perspective, I've been watching your car for around 3,000 Ks, either behind me or in front of me.
Yep.
It's got a great footprint. It handles beautifully on the road, corners nicely. Everything's in tune with everything. Often you see people fit out vehicles and it's not quite in tune with the whole thing, but it's very well balanced, nicely put together vehicle, and you can just see that as it handles on the road. It's a really nice piece of kit.
I certainly feel, I feel like I don't feel tired, or I don't feel stressed or fatigued after the long stretches in the Ranger. The seat's really comfortable. Throwing those super fit seat covers on, just a great stroke there, because it just adds to the comfort level really well. And it also protects, obviously we're up here in the dust, so it protects them really well there. So yeah, look, overall, you know, we already know this is a good touring rig, so we don't really need to go too deep into that. I'm just particularly happy with the way that this kind of one's come together. But the BYD, now that's probably, you know...
Just before you go there,
Yeah.
I'd just like to get your final fuel figure. 2,100 kilometres, Perth to Broome.
Yep.
We did a lot of on the blacktop.
Yep.
We did some off-road.
Yep.
We did a little bit of a creek crossing as well.
Yep.
What was your final fuel figure rolling into Broome?
So, litres per 100 Ks?
Yeah.
So, litres per 100 Ks before I started the tow was 13.7. After was about 14.5. And then getting into Broome after the final stretch with some of that off-road, including the trailer, 14.8.
Okay, no worries. Very good.
Not too bad.
I think it's not too bad for a big heavy car.
Well, with 1,000 litres of 1,000 Ks of range, you know, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this BYD. Now, I got an opportunity to drive that. Straight off the bat, very impressed with some of the mod cons that are there. Very comfortable drive, very solid, great footprint, all the things that you'd expect out of a dual cab. I did love the little head-up display. I raved about that quite a few times. I was a little bit impressed about the voice commands. You know, hey BYD, open the windows. That was, I mean, I don't want to say it's unnecessary, but it's, you know, it's
cool tech.
It's just cool, yeah. Like, as in, it's, you know, obviously we both grew up with hydraulic windows, you know. I'm not that much younger than you, and hydraulic windows when we were kids. I mean, I remember driving across the Nullarbor in my dad's old Nissan Pintara station wagon, and no aircon, you know, and that was a bloody tank of a thing. But the old hydraulic. So having power windows, I don't necessarily think that we need voice activation, but it is pretty cool.
Well, that car's loaded with as much tech
Yes.
and features as they can possibly put
Yeah.
into a dual cab ute. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt about that. Price-wise, it's fantastic. It's unbeatable.
I mean, so let's talk about the price. What was the price?
The price, we drove away with that car with a BYD Spotlight and a steel bull bar on the front.
And that's
And
done
we put
by Ironman?
BYD did it. And
Oh,
it had all terrains fitted as well.
Okay.
68,000 we drove away with that car.
all right. So for 68 grand, you're getting all of that. I don't think there's another dual cab on the market offering the same level of tech, same level of mod cons, same level of interior design for that kind of price.
Undoubtedly not.
Yeah.
There's no one out there. No one's really offering the same thing as the BYD at that spec. You've got a Canon. You've also got a Ranger that's come out, but the battery size is different.
Yep.
They've all got their different nuances.
I'd be interested to see the plug-in Ranger versus the BYD.
Yeah,
I reckon that'd be
well,
cool
there's
to
a
do.
few tests out there, but you know, looking at the BYD for this trip, we did 2,100 kilometres. The only charging station, which is not BYD's fault, was in Dalwallinu. So
Yes.
after that, we're on our own fuel-wise.
So touching on that charging station, you went in at 35% battery?
Yeah,
Is that
something
right?
like that,
Pretty
yeah.
close to that. And then coming out at 100% took you 40 something minutes.
Took us 40 minutes to put the charge back in, and then 20 minutes to go and get a bit of fuel. We were there for an hour. We wasted an hour. We'd burnt that battery off in about 35, 40 Ks.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth sitting there.
So,
you know,
but-
you may as well, it might have been $10 cheaper than just putting fuel in.
We did work out, however, there is that waiting mode that you can use a lot less fuel whilst you're at your stop to charge the battery up. Is that right?
Yeah, well, we worked out a little hack where when we were stopped, we could keep the waiting mode running, which was putting in, I think, 6 kilowatts an hour at 2.6 litres. So, you know, that's something, you've basically got a camping generator whenever you want to go camping, which
That's
is
pretty
pretty cool, you know, or working on the farm or whatever. So that's pretty good.
So your overall thoughts of the vehicle, I mean, you drove it a hell of a lot longer than I did. So your overall thoughts in terms of, you know, the trip going from Perth to Broome.
Incredibly comfortable ride. The interior is excellent. The appointments are excellent. It's a great looking vehicle. I think they just undercooked the tank size a little bit, but I'm sure from an aftermarket point of view, there'll be options popping up there.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
The only other things that I could pick up that I think need a bit of a look at is RPM, engine temp gauges and oil pressure gauges, or, you know, just another page on the screen basically could be developed.
So to be clear on that, there is no engine temp gauges, there is no RPM gauges, there's no, so engine data,
We've got no idea what the engine's
other than
doing,
fuel usage,
other than hearing it running.
other than the fact that it's turned on, you don't know anything
Yeah,
about it.
That's right. Which I think needs to be addressed. The other thing is the range data for the fuel, I think needs a little bit of work, because there's a safety issue there, because it can drop from 150k range to 50k range in a matter of 5 minutes.
Yep.
And we actually ran out of fuel.
Yep.
Now, if we didn't have Jerry's in the back, we could have had some strife, something that's got to be carefully watched for families and that sort of thing.
So obviously when you're in suburbia, the metro or anything like that, that's not as big of a deal, because access to, you know, fuel stations and tow trucks and your mate to come down and top you up or anything like that's usually not a problem. But when you are planning these long range trips in between remote towns, which are, you know, for the most part the only places that you can get fuel other than the spotted roadhouse here and there, that could be a safety thing.
It could be, and with a 60 litre tank, we started getting further north of Broome on a second trip, and you get into these non-aromatic fuels, and you're losing about 20 to 25% performance in your fuel. So that costs you again on range. So your range is coming down to, you know, 320, 330 kilometres, and that's starting to get in between town distances. So yeah, it's a bit touch and go there.
If I was to say build your perfect BYD Shark,
Yeah.
what were the things that you would change?
I'd just do some software updates on the range data. I'd probably put another page on the dash that gave me some engine details, and I would probably just put a larger fuel tank in, because I think by putting a larger engine in, it would mess with the dynamics of the
Weights and
hybrid
everything like
vehicle
that, yeah.
in the city, where where you get some real good savings. So I think it just needs a bit extra fuel.
Does it need a bigger battery?
I don't think so. It's got the biggest battery in the class. It's a big battery for a plug-in hybrid.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think, aesthetically looking at it, I reckon it looks fantastic. They've obviously got their finger on the pulse when it comes down to what people are looking for in, I wouldn't say a futuristic vehicle, because it's not that, but an up-to-date, vehicle that's with the current trends in regards to what, other vehicles in the class look like. I really do quite like those long square lights across the front. I reckon that looks a little bit like Tron. I really think that's quite cool. Probably showing up, I'm a bit of a nerd there, but I think that's absolutely fantastic. But as a ute, you're happy with it, everything like that?
I think it's a great car all round. Very, very comfortable. They've outdone themselves on the, what they've loaded into this thing. It's a fantastic vehicle, and I would recommend it for people who are generally based in the city, who might go and do some recreational activities out of the city from time to time. Who cares? A little bit of extra fuel doesn't really matter. It still does what you need it to do. If I was living in the country and I had long distances to do every day, it's probably not the vehicle for you.
Yeah.
But it's just horses for courses, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, look, if I was to pick a vehicle to whip around the metro, I think for the price, it's really hard to look past it. Like you said, there's a couple of things that they probably need to work on. In particular, that engine data stuff, I think, is the biggest thing, alongside the fuel. That's probably a software update more than anything else. But it's, for the money, great interior, great mod cons, I think it would be a fantastic vehicle, especially, like you said, if the 90% of your touring is around, between Mandurah and Ellenbrook, I mean, that's pretty good, However, if you're up here, maybe look at the Ranger.
Yeah, or a similar vehicle.
Or a similar vehicle.
But, all in all, we're lucky to have so much choice.
Cool. Well, it was a good trip up, mate. I think it was a really interesting little comparison between two dual cab utes. And one thing I'd like to add before we finish up, the Range is obviously very, very modified. So that's probably one thing there is it's quite easy to say, oh yeah, that's probably the better touring rig. It is very modified. It is, it's got a GVM upgrade, it's got a full canopy touring rig, it's all those kinds of things. So naturally, we knew that it was probably going to be a better touring rig as it is now. But stock, I think it's probably getting a really good run for its money. Now, lucky last, you did ask me about my final fuel calculations for the Ranger, which was about 14.7 after an extended period of towing and everything like that.
Yep.
BYD Shark.
Do you really want to know?
Oh, I don't know. Is it worse than 14.7?
A little bit.
All right. So we have obviously spoken about fuel range being one of the issues.
Yeah.
What's your number?
Well, as you can imagine, the drive up was pretty full on. So we're doing 100, 105s, 110s most of the way.
Yep.
2100 Ks.
Yep.
As we said, blacktop, touch of
Backtrack off-road, yep.
We pulled into Broome and it was right on 14.9 litres to the 100.
Oh, I got him. That much. Happy with that.
So that little engine must have worked pretty hard most of the trip up.
That's actually surprisingly good.
But, it's still pretty close to your Ranger. So, just because it's got a battery stuck under there, little motor, we don't know how that works, with the electrical motors driving the wheels, but at the end of the day, similar fuel economy overall.
So now 14.9 total, all right? That included your 100 Ks of
Towing.
of towing,
Yeah.
right? And I towed for probably about 700 k's in the end. But what was your fuel usage whilst towing specifically?
It went up to about 17, 18.
Ah, okay. So that is one point there. I went from about 13.7, about 14.2. You went from the low 14s.
I don't think it really likes towing much. The BYD's not great at towing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's something to take into account if you're looking for a vehicle like this, you know, and if you are going to be towing, in particular, things like caravans, and how heavy was that trailer, you reckon? About 1,000 kilos?
It was under a ton. I think if you were towing a 2,500 kilo caravan out on the open road, after a while you'd have enormous fuel consumption, probably in the 20s.
Yeah.
And also the engine would struggle to charge the battery.
Keep up. Yep.
So I think the only option you would ultimately have is to back right off on your speed.
Yeah.
If you don't have charging stations available, I think there'd be problems would start to evolve.
You'd also have
if you're
issues
doing
with
that
things
sort
like the temperature of the motors. There's something. Does it have any data regarding the temperatures of the motors, the driving motors?
No, there's no information about the drive, as we know it. Yep.
Okay, well that's something hopefully BYD releases in a software update, especially for anyone doing any kind of long range stuff. It's in particular with motors themselves, they do have safeties in them to cut out if they're getting too hot and they're drawing too much power. But to not be able to see any of those temperatures or anything like that, that's I think that's something in particular with the motor, the engine. That's something to think about. Yeah.
Yep.
Righto team, thanks very much for joining us.
We interrupt this broadcast for breaking news on the Shark BYD.
So folks, we've done over 4,000 k's since we left Perth. Bitumen, lots of dirt, the full Gibb River Road. So the big reveal is how much dust is in my airbox. So let's take a look. Pretty good, really good. Nice seal. Working really, really well. So we've got no ingress underneath here, which tells me that it's done its job really, really well. So top notch. So just another thing that we found on the trip was that we had a bit of the doors dropping a little bit. In actual fact, down in here, it actually put a little cut in the door seal and it was catching under here. So the only way we could get around that is by taping it up just to make a smooth seal again. But on both front doors, there's a little bit of drop, so we'll have to get that adjusted up when we get back to the dealer. Fast forward another 4 weeks and a new problem's shown up. The BYD has developed a water leak through some of the door seals, and along with it's come a few electrical gremlins. Now, this has all happened after the big North trip. So we can't say for sure what's caused it. Was it the rough tracks? Or is it just something that is inherently wrong with the first edition of the BYD? But the timing's worth a note. To the BYD's credit, their support's been really solid. They were quick to respond and get us back on track without too much drama. And you got to remember, this BYD is their very first dual cab ute. They have done such a fantastic job with it. And any manufacturer, no matter who they are, usually goes through a hell of a lot of teething issues when they're first launching a brand new product. So while it hasn't been perfect, the Shark has so much promise into the future. The big question now is, how's it going to hold up in the long run? Stay tuned for our next adventure with the BYD Shark as we take on the legendary Gibb River Road. Dust, river crossings, and lots of fun on the way.